Hello there, my name's Teresa Matsura, and you're listening to Uncanny Japan. Let's say it's, about 500 years ago, and your parents have decided it's about time to marry you off. They found the perfect partner, too. Or, well, the go-between has. An auspicious date is chosen, and before you know it, it's the evening you're to meet your potential future spouse. You and your parents arrive at the go-between's house with gifts in hand. You're led in and seated on the floor of a tatami-matted room. And you wait. She's getting ready, you're told. You're offered some tea, and you continue to wait. With nothing much to do, you and your parents quietly watch the paper shoji windows turn from orange to red as the sun sets outside. She's still not ready. The room slowly darkens, and a chill sneaks in. But before you can make a comment, a young woman hurries into the room and apologizes for the delay. She refills your teacups and starts a fire in the hibachi. A young man joins her and busies himself lighting several andon floor lanterns that give off a golden, diffused glow that doesn't quite reach the shadowed corners or ceiling and smells faintly of burning sardines as they warm up. Still, you wait nervously for your possible bride to make an entrance. Except for the fish oil, the mood is soft and romantic. Perfect. Finally, the lovely lady is announced and swishes in. She takes little steps in her elegant kimono, an embroidered obi to die for. She holds one long-sleeved arm in front of her face and keeps her gaze downcast as she kneels in front of you and your mom and dad. Her camellia-oiled hair is done up, black and shiny in the candlelight. She settles, as do her parents on either side, and everyone bows. Upon raising her head, you see her face for the first time, heart-shaped and painted white. There's a little zing when your eyes meet. You nervously smile, and she smiles back. Only she has no teeth. No, wait, she does have teeth, but they're just all dyed black. And she's the most beautiful person that you've ever seen. And I'm not being sarcastic either, and I'll explain why in a minute. But first, you might have heard of the practice of blackening one's teeth in old Japan. It's called Ohaguro, or Haguro, and it's what we're going to talk about today. Would you like to explore the stranger, more obscure corners of Japanese culture? Dig a little deeper into superstitions, curious customs, and all those mysterious creatures that inhabit the land? If so, then this is the podcast for you. Uncanny Japan is where I, author Teresa Matsura, share all the fascinating tidbits I unearth while doing research for my writing. From the bizarre to the ghastly, and everything in between. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, how are you? I'm fine. Very fine, actually. Crazy busy, but I sold another short story, so yay. This makes 3 stories that will be published this year. I'll let you know when it comes out because you'll be able to read this one online. It's called The Buddha Bone, and it's a little weird. It's about the idea that we all have a bone in our bodies shaped like a sitting, meditating Buddha. True story. And if you ever attend a cremation in Japan, you'll most likely see one because they're quite important, especially to the Jodo sect of Buddhism. Patrons, I wrote more about it on the Patreon blog in case you didn't get the notification, and a photo too. Okay, today's show. Ohaguro, or just haguro, blackened teeth, is how you hear it referred about most often these days. But the practice did have other names. It also went by kanetsuku, tsukegane, hagurome, which sounds terribly derogatory to me, and deshi, or by those same characters, it was also pronounced neshi. That last one is an interesting two-character word. The second is the kanji for tooth, but the first one just means black. But it's kind of an image, like the dark, dark soil you'll find at the bottom of a lake, perhaps. Totally unrelated, but I thought fascinating, is that first character, which means deep, black earth. When paired with han, is nehan, which means nirvana, like enlightenment, but kind of not enlightenment because it's, I guess, more extinguishment. Pretty cool. So, when did this custom of dyeing one's teeth black start? A good guess is probably more than 1,700 years ago, during the Yayoi era. Someone found some texts written in China from that time, and they refer to Japan as Kokushikoku, or Kokushi no Kuni, or the Black Teeth Country. I guess it could be Black Tooth Country. There are also Haniwa statues that have been unearthed in Japan from as early as 250 CE. And they have traces of black on their teeth, which seems to support China's nickname. Then you have the 12th century, the Heian era, where teeth blackening was mentioned in both the Genji Monogatari and then also an acute tale that can be found in a collection of short stories titled Tsutumi Chunagon Monogatari. The story in question is called The Lady Who Loved Insects, or The Princess Who Loved Bugs. Mushi Metsuru Himegimi. Say that 3 times fast. That story is about an eccentric young princess who raises and loves bugs, especially caterpillars. She's obsessed with them. She's young, but quite the free-thinking wild child. She holds the little critters and watches them for hours on end, not even bothering to brush her hair. She just pushes it back behind her ears. Even though her mother insists she'll never find a husband acting like this, still the girl refuses to pluck or shave her eyebrows, and she doesn't even blacken her teeth either. But ha to the mother, because there is a guy who falls in love with her exactly the way she is. Although he ends up giving her a fake snake, which is weird, and it makes you wonder how old these kids are. Anyway, that's another early mention of blackening one's teeth. I found the Japanese version, and I think I'm going to translate it for this month's bedtime story, too. I like our little bug-loving princess. Back to Ohaguro. So blackening the teeth, of course, was practiced only by the aristocracy at first, but eventually it made its way down to lower classes. That said, throughout the centuries, it seems like almost everyone participated in it at some point. Both men and women, rich and not so rich, and almost all ages. However, it wasn't done on very small children or the very poor. Blackening one's teeth was a coming-of-age rite for a while, with both boys and girls, somewhere between the ages of 13 to 17, depending on the year, doing it. But during the Sengoku Jidai, the warring period, children as young as 8 practiced it. Now, though, I think it's mostly associated with married women. For example, you'll find in kabuki plays, if an actor has their teeth painted black, it means they're portraying a married woman, a nobleman, or a courtesan. But why, you ask? There are several theories. One is that black is, as we all know, beautiful. It is also a color that cannot be dyed any other color. It is always what it is, and it never fades, which is symbolic of a heart that is true and not easily changed. And that is why women began to do ohaguro once they married, to prove their loyalty. But not just women either. There was a time when samurai would also blacken their teeth when they decided to serve one lord and no other ever. So now let's talk about how it's done, because this is really fascinating. There are different recipes and combinations of ingredients, but if you're up for trying it, basically it goes something like this. First, you need to make some kanemizu, metal water. This is a type of iron acetate made by heating scrap pieces of iron. Think old nails. And then adding that to a mixture of water, vinegar, sake, and strong tea. You let that ferment in a cool, dark place for a couple days. After you get a nice head of scum on top, you skim it off, you boil it, and you pour it into a bowl filled with iron filings and something called fushi powder, which is a tannic acid made from the gallnuts of the Japanese sumac tree. You stir well, and there you go. If you visit a lot of museums in Japan, you can sometimes see a neat little makeup set that was used for the Ohaguro ritual. There are quite a few instruments needed, like a mirror, of course, a basin, and a smaller bowl for rinsing your mouth, a container for the kanemizu, and one for holding the powdered gallnuts. And don't forget the tray that's going to hold all your various brushes and painting implements. Speaking of brushes, if you were especially glamorous and rich, you could use a very fine brush made from the combined feathers of a crane, a pheasant, and a mandarin duck. You might be able to guess, but the dye smelled really bad. So bad, in fact, that poor wives had to get up before the rest of the family so they could color their teeth without grossing everyone out. Another 2 bits of advice. Before applying the stinky dye, you should rub something like pomegranate rind all over your teeth to help it adhere better. And then, after you're done, in order to help it dry quickly, go ahead and take some me time and smoke on your kiseru pipe for a bit before the family wakes up. Ohaguro wasn't a one-time last-a-month kind of thing either. The dye faded quite quickly, actually, and going through the process daily wasn't unheard of, which makes you think twice about the whole loyalty symbolism. And just so you know, Ohaguro wasn't just a beauty standard either. The dye was thought to protect your teeth, and in case you did have a cavity or cavities or something, it offered immediate pain relief. So then why did it stop? Well, foreigners didn't help. When they started to arrive at the end of the Edo era and the beginning of the Meiji, and they saw this practice, their immediate thought was that it was unattractive and cruel. Unable to see anything beautiful about it, they assumed it was a way to keep married women faithful by making them ugly. It's written that when Commodore Perry arrived in Japan, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, "Japanese women can read and write, and they seem to be knowledgeable about many things. I cannot understand why they'd want to paint their teeth black." And so the practice was officially banned on February 5th, 1870. Although it didn't disappear immediately, a 2,000-year-old custom doesn't die so easily. There are even posters you can find during this time advertising a fushi powder for women to use instead of the long, complicated traditional way. This one could be wiped off easily, too. So maybe if you saw a cop coming or something, just wipe it off. 3 years into the official ban, in 1873, the Empress appeared in public with white teeth for the first time, which was shocking, but also did quite a bit to get people to think twice and change their ways. Before I go, let me have you remember that first image of a woman with blackened teeth, her face and neck painted white, and eyebrows completely shaven. Seeing this today, perhaps a kabuki actor or maiko on the streets of Kyoto, it looks a little unnatural and harsh, perhaps. Some might say spooky. But you have to remember that back in an older Japan, rooms were lit with candles or oil lamps. Walls, floors, ceilings were made of wood, paper, or an earthy-colored sandy substance. In this lighting, in this atmosphere, having regular skin didn't look so nice. But if you were wearing very white makeup, called shiro nuri, the firelight made your skin look warm and golden, smooth and flawless. Next are the shaven eyebrows. That was also a thing. Again, nowadays, unless penciled in, an eyebrowless face can have an uncanny, creepy look to it. But back then, it was considered beautiful because, and I got this from an educational Japanese TV show that also explained Ohaguro. The historian on the show said that it's from your eyebrows you make most of your expressions and give away all sorts of emotions. If you don't have eyebrows, again in a gloaming room, you look reserved and refined, not overly emotional. Like, what if this guy your go-between chose for you to meet was like really gross looking? Having no eyebrows would allow you to hide that look of disgust. As for darkened teeth, it was actually shiny white teeth that were unsettling. Possibly because they resembled some wild fanged beast, like an oni. And so, I'll leave you today with a cute misunderstanding that came out in the Meiji era. An early urban legend, if you will. At the time, electricity lines were being hung up in bigger cities in Japan, and the men doing the work used coal tar to paint them. And I'm guessing this is for insulation, or maybe they were painting the poles, I don't know. But either way, people saw this strange thing going on and these big buckets of dark, thick liquid being used. And the rumor spread that they were using living virgin's blood. And this caused a bit of panic, as you can imagine. The solution was adorable. Young ladies all over Japan started dyeing their teeth black, plucking their eyebrows, and wearing boring kimono so that they looked like they were married and would avoid getting their blood drained. Next episode, I'll talk about the yokai who are associated with Ohaguro and what we can find there. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the show. I love you, patrons. You're the best. And I will talk to you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye. You've reached the end of the show, and I just want you to know how much we appreciate you listening and supporting us. Any subscribing, reviewing, and gushing to your friends, family, even random strangers really does help keep us going. If you have the means and you want to help a little more and get a little more, we are making extra content over on Patreon. All for only $5 a month. Or if you like to read horror, you might be interested in my Bram Stoker-nominated short story collection, The Carp-Faced Boy and Other Tales. 本当にありがとうございます. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you real soon.